Welcome to Transport Vlog. My name is Paul and this is another Chatswood Dive Site update video. Progress has been quite steady over the last couple of months and I'm going to show you footage from the 7th of July through to today, which is the 20th of September. So kicking off with the 7th of July on a train towards Artarmon. The white stumps for the future fence posts start appearing just here on the right, and after these two ground signals you can see the new fence posts attached to these stumps. And some of the fence posts further along now have the mesh fencing between them. On the southbound line you can see 5 horizontal bars between the rails and a further 4 between the nearest rail and the wall. On both lines, fastenings have been fitted to the rails to line up with every third set of holes in the track slab. On the northbound line, the fastenings fitted to the rails have not yet got into the holes. And if you look closely, you can see the holes with the fastenings slightly to the left of them. On the southbound line, the fastening pins are already in the holes, which secures them to the track slab, perhaps with some concrete or other adhesive as well. The additional fastenings are alongside the tracks, many of them are upside down with the pins facing upwards. Closer to the tunnel portal, it appears that the fastening pins for the northbound line rails are now in the track slab holes, and it's now one seamless track all the way into the northbound tunnel. Now going towards Chatswood. Between the two North Shore lines is this new drainage channel, with the wider areas being where the drains will be to take excess water into pipes below the ground. Now going under the Mowbray Road, and I'll show you some footage from this bridge later in this video. Now crossing over the southbound tunnel portal, and a new metal rail has gone in for the future cabling conduits. Now over the northbound tunnel portal, and you get a great view of the southbound line along with another metal rail for future cabling conduits. This stanchion, and then the gantry that follows, were installed in April 2022. You can now see the northbound line more clearly, with all the holes visible and the track resting slightly to the right of them. And then some more stumps and fence posts for the future fence that will provide a physical barrier between the metro tracks and the Sydney trains lines. Beyond this ground signal, it's stumps only. It's now a week later on the 14th of July and 3 horizontal bars have appeared at the end of the northbound line. And the northbound line has now been fitted to the track slab, with fastening pins in every third set of holes. Closer to the tunnel portal, all the remaining fastenings for the northbound line have been added and attached to the track slab. Now going towards Chatswood, and there were no changes to the southbound line during this time, so this footage is at normal line speed. This is now on the 25th of July and no changes at this end. However, about a third of the way towards the tunnel portal, you'll see that the remaining fastenings have been attached to the northbound track and connected to the track slab. If you know the purpose of this vehicle, do share this in the comments below. And boards have now appeared over both tracks at the northbound tunnel portal. Now in the other direction, and still no further progress on the southbound line, so it seems like the focus is on the northbound line at the moment. These two concrete supports are for future overhead wire structures. From the Mowbray Road bridge you get a clearer view of the northbound track with all the fastenings in place at the tunnel end, with the remainder waiting to be added at the other end. It's now the 3rd of August and this is after a trackwork weekend, and I've started at Chatswood Station because just after, further new white stumps have appeared, along with these new fence posts. And a little further along, more of the mesh fencing has been added to the fence posts that were installed a few weeks earlier. On the southbound line, there is now one horizontal support between the two rails and another one between the rail and the retaining wall. And on the northbound line, there are now 3 horizontal supports between the rails. All the remaining fastenings have now been added for both the northbound and southbound lines, which are now secured to the track slab. Further down, it's back to fastenings in every third set of holes on the southbound line. Notice these grab rails on the west retaining wall. A new overhead wire structure has been installed on the west retaining wall. This one was already here, but it looks different now. You'll get a better view of these shortly in the other direction. And now two new stanchions that are between the northbound and southbound track slabs. In the other direction, the drainage channel looks different, with a layer of soil surrounding it that will direct water towards the channel. This gravel here is covering something. To find out what it's hiding, watch this video appearing on the top right. Here are these two stanchions again and another grab rail here. You can see the southbound line with fastenings in every third set of holes, with some extra ones here for good measure. The overhead wire structures that you saw in the other direction are part of this new gantry. The stanchion on the east retaining wall has been in place since April, with the rest being added during the 30th and 31st of July trackwork weekend. You've seen this next gantry in earlier footage as it's been in place since April. But this next one here is new, along with this one. These also went in during the 30th and 31st of July trackwork weekend. A lot of mesh fencing has now appeared between the fence posts. Beyond this ground signal, all the fence posts are new, and some have the mesh fencing already. All the new fencing on both sides also occurred during the 30th and 31st of July trackwork weekend. This Mowbray Road bridge footage was on the 6th of August during another trackwork weekend. You can see the completed northbound track with all the fastenings in place. This yellow and white wagon has been at the top of this line for a few weeks now. I think it's being used to install cabling. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Here's a close-up of the southbound line, with all the fastenings at the northern end only. As you'll see shortly from the next batch of on-train footage, not much changed over this weekend. It seems like this possession was mainly used to remove earth and spoil. However, further work did take place on the fencing. This was on the 19th of August, so a few days after the 6th and 7th of August trackwork weekend. And all the white stumps have now been filled with fence posts, and most also have the fencing mesh between them. Here is this wagon again, which has been here since early August. Now surprisingly, no further work has taken place to install the remaining fastenings on the southbound line. It's still one for every third set of holes. Now in the other direction, and although hard to see, further metal rails have appeared on the east retaining wall for the future cable conduits, which now extend to here. And lying in the ballast are the all-important new rails that will probably be used to join this up with the track on the other side. A lot more of the mesh fencing is now in place. This was done during the 6th and 7th of August trackwork weekend. And closer to Chatswood Station, more of the white stumps now have the fence posts, including many with the mesh fencing as well. So now 1 month later on the 20th of September, and this is also after another trackwork weekend, so let's see what's changed. 4 new fence posts have appeared at the start of the bridge over Albert Avenue. And further along, most of the fence posts and mesh have been here for a few weeks now, but some gaps were filled in during the last trackwork weekend, which was on the 3rd and 4th of September. The purpose of this fencing is to provide a physical barrier between the Metro and Sydney trains running lines. The track vehicles that were at this end of the northbound line have now gone, but otherwise no change here. Track fastenings are still to be added on the concrete slab that marks the transition to ballast and sleepers. A cantilever has been added to the northbound line overhead wire structure, and after a gap of about 6 weeks, work restarted in mid-September to install the remaining track fastenings on the southbound line, with all the fastenings in place to just before this overhead wire gantry. The southbound line now has a new overhead wire structure which was installed during the 3rd and 4th of September trackwork weekend. This area looks a whole lot different. This was all covered by the gantry crane shed but is now exposed, and there is a services building being constructed above it. More on this shortly. No changes to the drainage channel. It looks like the drainage channel will go under the northbound North Shore line around here, and then run along the west side, probably to Brand Street. Now returning to Chatswood, and here is another view of the new southbound line overhead wire structure. You can see additional fastenings on the southbound line here and the remaining ones alongside the tracks. And just here you get a clearer view of the new fastenings added to this line. Mini cantilevers have now been attached to these two vertical overhead wire arms. This also happened on the 3rd and 4th of September trackwork weekend. Still two concrete supports at this end. It will be interesting to see what these are used for. And on this side, the fencing between the Metro and the Sydney Trains lines continues to evolve, with a few more posts and further mesh. And this includes 4 new posts at the start of the Albert Avenue Bridge. Now back on the Mowbray Road Bridge, and this is the southbound line as it looked on the 20th of September. The new overhead wire structure is coming into view now. From here you get a clearer view of the fastenings that have been added and the remaining gaps to be filled. The track bed currently has this temporary protective white covering, and it looks like these workers are pouring some kind of adhesive to help secure the fastenings to the track bed. I can sense the care, concentration and teamwork involved in doing this. Major changes are now happening within the dive site construction area, with this gantry crane shed building about to be demolished. This is how it looked in early June. It housed two 40-ton overhead cranes that were used to get equipment and materials into the tunnels. It was still there on the 25th of July, and less than 2 weeks later on the 6th of August it was just the metal frame. And by the 19th of August the metal frame had gone as well, so the gantry crane shed is no more. It also means that this area here has now become visible, and this might be part of the tunnel portal. If you imagine the lines going under the northbound North Shore line, then it is in about the right place. And a quick check on Google Aerial View, which shows where the tunnels actually start, seems to confirm this. These concrete supports were for the gantry crane shed. This area will almost certainly be covered over, and you can see lots of reinforcing bars known as rebar. These will soon be covered with concrete. Now getting closer with the help of a train. Lots more evidence that this will soon be covered over. This looks like the upper levels of the tunnel portal, with the tracks way down below. And I reckon a new wall is going in here. I think this might be part of the tunnel ventilation system, and I reckon these two covered holes could line up with the tunnel entrances below. And here and here are where I reckon the two running lines are, although the northbound line might be further to the right. I know that some of the Chatswood Dive Site team watch my videos, so feel free to leave a comment or email me with any corrections, clarification or further information. You can now see the services building being constructed above. And over on the right is the approach to another tunnel portal, which could be for the northbound line or might be for a service tunnel or emergency exit. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Now nearly 4 weeks later on the 10th of September, and the main change here is this new horizontal wall running west to east. Another wall running south to north will soon go in here, And on the other side of this new west to east wall, the rebar mesh from the previous footage is now part of the new south to north wall. Now 10 days later on the 20th of September, and this new south to north wall is beginning to take shape, and it's not so easy now to see down into the tunnel portals below. Here is another view of this new west to east wall from the Mowbray Road bridge. And now the new wall running south to north. Plenty of work going on, as you can see here, and the west to east wall looks finished on this side. Taking some of the space occupied by the old Gantry crane shed is a new services building, which will be known as the Northern Dive Site building. This is how it looked on the 6th of August. This building will house tunnel ventilation systems, transformers, electrical switchboards, comms equipment and fire pumps. This is how it looked on the 19th of August. And now on the 20th of September. Most of this building is below ground behind this tunnel portal wall, but as you saw earlier from the train, the lower levels are very visible at the moment. And a final view of this building from the dive site entrance on Mowbray Road.
So that brings you bang up to date with all the work that is happening at Chatswood Dive.
Oh no, it doesn't, Paul, because this just landed in my inbox. So from the 3rd of October, that's the Labour Day public holiday, until the end of Friday the 7th of October, Sydney Metro trains will terminate at North Ryde. Now that doesn't normally happen. And scrolling down, I find that the T1 North Shore Line trains are replaced with buses between Gordon and North Sydney over the same dates. And a quick check of the future trackwork calendar reveals that both the Metro and the North Shore lines are closed until the end of Sunday the 9th of October, so that's effectively a whole week. So what's going to happen during this time? Let's find out. According to the October project update, link in the description below, work will include the installation of overhead wiring, which makes sense as the overhead wire structures are now in place. Also track work, which will almost certainly be connecting the new tracks to the existing tracks. The missing section is only 5 metres long, and you can see the rails along with 62 sleepers that have been waiting patiently here for several months. So expect to see the rails connected in my next update. And also the installation of level crossing pads. This might be here at the northbound tunnel portal or somewhere else. And then there's the installation of the combined services routes. This is probably the cabling conduits that will be attached to the metal rails. And then finally the installation of permanent fencing, which I reckon is the remainder of the fencing between the Metro and the North Shore Line tracks. The partial closures of Albert Avenue are probably to allow this fencing to be installed on the railway bridge. So all of this will be in my October update, but for now it's back to Paul in Chatswood to finish the outro.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do give it a like, give it a thumbs up, do leave a comment or question below. I'd love to know what you think. I'll do my best to answer any questions that you have. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and also consider supporting me on Patreon. There's a link in the description below with further details. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.